Hey everyone, this week we're looking at Adobe's incredible new Generative Fill AI and 5 ways that it can be used to enhance your photography. So AI is all over the place at the moment, and it's no surprise that it's made its way into the world of photography. Recently, a Sony Photography Award winner refused their prize after admitting that they'd entered an AI-generated image. And AI is in almost every single software package that photographers use these days. And so the hype is absolutely justified because it can do incredible things, but it also does threaten to destroy what some people regard as the very essence of photography. In the latest beta release of Photoshop, Adobe included a tool called Generative Fill, and you've probably already heard about this, everyone's talking about it, and it is absolutely amazing. But we're going to be looking at 5 ways in which photographers can use this new tool to either fix or enhance their images. And then later on we're going to be looking at some of the more creative, generative ways that this can be used, probably more controversial ways, to turn something like this into something more like this. So stick around for that, but we're going to dive in now and look at some of the less controversial ways that we can use this. Okay, so remember these features are not in the current release version of Photoshop, so you need to get the beta version. And you do that by coming into Adobe Creative Cloud, come down here on the left, down to Beta Apps, and then you'll find all the beta apps that you can install here and just install Photoshop Beta. Then you can use this in the same way that you would use your normal release version of Photoshop. Okay, so the first way that we're going to use generative AI in our photography is to remove flare in an image. So I'm just going to drag this image in here. And as you can see, we're shooting right into the sun, and that has meant that we've got some ghosting here, a bit of flare down here, and we've also got a little green patch just down here on the rock. And that can be very difficult to fix, even with content-aware fill and cloning and things like that. So we're going to try and remove this with the generative fill. So generative fill works by using a selection tool, so we can use the marquee tools here, just the lasso tool, or we can use one of the marquee tools, and we just draw around the areas that we want to apply changes to. I just need to shift click and select that just to add to my selection, and the green patch just down here. And you see now we get this contextual bar pop up, and in here we can see generative fill. We can click on that and we can type a prompt into this box if we like, or we can leave it blank. So I'm going to actually leave it blank for this, and we just click generate, and that will analyze the image and it will actually fill in those areas. So it's not really removing the areas as such. It's actually analysing the image and patching over those areas to make them look like the rest of the image. And you see it does an amazing job. It's seamless. You just can't tell at all that these effects have been applied, which is incredible really. And you do get various different options, so if you're not happy with the first one, you've got 2 others. They're all quite similar. And they're all so good that I can't really decide between them, to be honest, so I'll go with that one, I think. And that's it, it's as simple as that. You just select your areas, click generate, and it'll remove them. Okay, so we're going to stick with this image for the next way in which we're going to use generative fill. And what we're going to do with this one is sky replacement, or as I like to call it, sky enhancement, because we've already got a tool for sky replacement. It works fairly well. However, it is limited in some ways because you have to fill the entire sky. You've got to choose a certain sky from what is already in Photoshop or apply one of your own. And it's not that quick. Whereas using generative fill, it can be very quick and it can be really localized. So what I'm going to do is just draw an area over here like that. And you see I'm not going all the way up to the edges of my cliff, and that's what I mean by localized. If you want just a part of the sky to be filled in with some features like clouds, then you can do that. If you want the whole thing, you can do that as well. But if I just click Generative Fill now and type cloudy sunrise, click generate. That's going to think about it a little bit, and it's going to add some really nice texture into that area of the sky, but still maintain a sunrise look. So there we've got one option, got another option there, or that one there. I think that's probably the best one. But we've still got that sun coming from the same spot, so it matches with our sun rays. We've got some nice texture to balance out the rest of the image, and it looks really nice. If we compare that to the original, it's done a really good job of making it look really plausible. Fits in with all the lighting of the image, and yeah, it's gonna divide opinions, but you can't argue with how well this works. It really is just absolutely amazing. Alright then, let's look at another way that we can use this feature. If we open up another image in Photoshop Beta, we can look at how to remove people from our images. So you'll see this is quite a complex image, quite a few people in here. It would be quite difficult to clone these out or use content-aware fill, but the beauty of Generative Fill is that you can just overlap edges, and then Generative Fill will actually fill in those gaps where you've overlapped. I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's start with this guy here. We'll draw a selection around him, like so. You don't have to be too precise. And then you see here, we're going to overlap the foot of this other player here. So we just click Generative Fill. We're not going to type anything in there, just click Generate. And you see it gets rid of the guy, but it's also filled in the foot here. So we don't have to worry about that area not looking quite right. And we've got different versions, so we can choose from a few. There is a little bit of the line missing there, but we could fill that in. That's not too much of a problem. And we can also try this on this guy here at the back. Again, you'll see I'm just cutting into the head of this player here. And we'll come down, go all the way around the edge of this player in the background. Again, Generative Fill, Generate, and let's see what it does this time. And as you can see, it's absolutely amazing. Again, I just can't believe how well it fills this in. So yeah, it doesn't look exactly like the original, but you can't tell that it's generated. Let's have a look at some different versions. It's a slightly smaller ear on that one. I would say that looks absolutely fine to me. And of course, we've got rid of the ball from our original image, which was just here. But the beauty of generative AI is that we can just create a ball. So we can just put our ball here, click Generative Fill, type football, and click Generate. And there we go, we've got a football in there. We've got different ones we can choose from. Even got a little bit of motion blur in that one, which is quite nice. So I think I'll go for that. And we've gone from that to that. It's a much more simple image, less chaos going on. And you can see just how quick it is to amend your image and create something that looks very plausible. So let's move on to the next example. We're going to extend the edges of an image in this example. So let's pull this one in here. You see we've got a square crop here, and what we want to do is add additional space to either side of this image to extend it into a landscape format. So there are tools to do this. You can use things like content-aware scale, or you could use content-aware fill, but generative fill is just another way you can do this. So first up, we're just going to change the canvas size. So I'm going to click on the crop tool. We're just going to extend this out. In fact, we can choose a particular ratio for this. If we go 5:7, click X to make it landscape, and just bring that down like this. I'm going to bring my third lines over the eye there like that. And obviously now we've got the white space at either end. But what we're going to do is use the rectangular marquee tool. We're going to draw an area down like this. And then hold shift, draw another area there. You'll see I'm slightly overlapping into the image here because you want a seamless gap. So we click Generative Fill, Generate, and there you see it's generated it again really well. We've got all that out of focus area at the front, in the background. We've got 3 options to choose from. They all look great. And the really good thing about this is that it doesn't copy and repeat parts of the background. If we just get rid of this, we can draw our selection areas again, like this. And then we can go to Content Aware Fill. So this is how we would have done it before we had Generative Fill. We can click Apply there. And that looks okay on first glance. But if we come down here, we see that we've got this feather repeated. And obviously, if you're going to look closely at your image, that's not particularly plausible. So if we go back to how we had it with Generative Fill, you can see we don't have that. It's filled it in, but it's completely new now. It's not repetitive. So that's a real step forward and a bit of a game changer when it comes to extending images and filling in that area. So we'll take things a step further now, and we're going to do some creative composite photography. So this is the area where it's going to start getting into realms where people are not comfortable with what AI is doing. I mean, some people are probably not comfortable with what we've seen already. Everybody's got a different line and how far they're willing to go with it. But this is certainly going to be an area where we're generating things completely out of the AI's imagination, and it's not based in actual photography, if you like. So it's definitely going to divide some opinions. But it is really fun, and you can get some incredible results. So what we're going to do is take this image and turn it into more of a fantasy image, something that you might see in Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or something like that. So what we can do is just use the lasso tool, and we're going to create a selection just up in this top area of the image from around about here, and we're just going to come up through the trees, come round like that, just to separate that top part of the river there. And we'll come into the Generative Fill box, and in here we're going to type mystical, magical, ethereal, getting all the keywords in here, fantasy, foggy, woodland, with a bridge. Why not? And we'll click Generate, and let's see what it comes up with. I think that one will do for now. I did get a much better one earlier when I was preparing for this video, and I'll share that later, but that's still looking pretty good. And what I'm going to do now is add some mushrooms into this. So I'm going to draw an area down here, perhaps one here. So just holding shift on my keyboard and adding to that selected area. And we're going to go into the Generative Fill box, and we're going to type spotted toadstool mushroom. Generate. Let's add some mushrooms to our image. So let's have a look at the variations. I kind of like those ones. For some reason it hasn't added one up here. I'm not really sure why. So that's looking pretty good. But I want to turbocharge this, and I want to really make it look fantasy and magical. So what I'm going to do is go to my rectangular marquee tool up here, I'm going to draw a rectangular marquee all the way around my canvas. And up until now, what we've been doing is using Generative Fill to apply our generated imagery to selected parts of our image. But what you can actually do is just generate an entire full image the same way that you would with, say, Midjourney or DALL-E 2. So the way you would do that is to select the entire canvas like this, go into the Generative Fill box and type what you want to generate. So what I want to add is some kind of magical atmosphere to this, some sparkles and ethereal particles. So I'm going to type in magical bioluminescent, if I can spell it, luminescent, I think it's like that, sparkles and particles, and we'll click generate. So you see that's added these generated particles on a layer just above our image. So I'm going to select one of these, perhaps that one. And what I want to do is blend this with the rest of my image. So I'm going to come down to perhaps overlay or soft light. You need to play around with these. I think soft light's not too bad. And you're going to need to play around with the opacity and things as well, so we can tune that up or down. And of course, if I'm not happy with that one, I can just generate more. So that's pretty cool. That one's not too bad, I think. So I'm quite liking this, and you can see the process that I've gone through to create it. But the one I did create earlier, I think is much better, and I'm going to put that one up on screen now. So pretty spectacular. And the sky's the limit, really. You can add more and more to this. You can add people in there, you could put a troll in there, you could add fire in the sky. Whatever you can imagine, you can add to this. And this is just the beta. It's only going to get better. The rendering is going to get better. The prediction and the way it interprets your prompts are going to get better. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. But as I said before, very controversial. Obviously, a lot of people are not going to like this. Because of the very nature of how it works, it's generating things that are not technically real, but then there is a philosophical discussion about what real actually is. I work as a graphic designer in my day job, and I know this will absolutely change the way I work with photography. I'm going to be totally comfortable using these kind of tools in my graphic design work, because often you just need good, quick results, and the most efficient and high quality way that you can achieve those results are going to be the best methods. I will be less comfortable sharing things on social media and on YouTube where I've used these kind of tools, because it's how you're perceived by others, I think. There is something to be said for putting effort in to create your image and going out there, capturing the best light, getting up at early hours of the morning, putting in the effort to edit that image and process it, and all of that cumulative effort is valued by people. There is value in doing all that. I think people, when they see that you're just typing in a prompt and it automatically generates something, takes away some of that value. But then the same could be said for photography compared to something like painting. It's obviously a lot more effort to paint a photorealistic picture than it is to pick up a camera and click a button. And around about the time that cameras were invented, I imagine there were similar discussions going on about whether it was cheating or not to use them. And you could say that the images created by cameras are not truly realistic or true to life either, because you're capturing a 2D image, it's a snapshot, a moment in time. Often that could be a long exposure where you're creating an unrealistic effect. And then when you put that into the computer, you're changing the colours. The camera itself will interpret those colours differently. Why does an image need to be true to life? I mean, leaving aside things like record shots and documentary shots, which do need to depict some reality, don't we just look at an image for enjoyment and to create a experience or some kind of visual excitement? And in that sense, does it matter if it's been created by a camera or through generative means? For most people, it's going to come down to where they draw the line. But if you're looking forward towards the future, There's always going to be new technology coming out and new tools to help us, so that line is continually moving. Ultimately, it comes down to the fact that photography is a process of creating an image with light, and AI creates an image through digital input, and there's no light involved at all, so in that sense it's completely different. The two are both image creation and they're related in similar ways, but there is a distinct difference between capturing the light to create an image and using the digital input of AI. Photography has always been a specific form of image creation, but going forward I think that definition is going to only become even more defined. I think it's going to split in a way where you're going to get image generation through generative means, which could incorporate some photography elements, but you're going to have the pure form of photography as a niche, which is just capturing the light. And then I think you're also going to have analog photography, film photography, which is further a niche subject, a niche genre. The same way that we've seen a revival in vinyl records, because people like that tangibility and that real aspect compared to the digital streaming version of music. I think you're going to get that as almost a reaction to digital generative AI art. People are going to want that real tangible thing, and if you can show that you've created an image through effort and by capturing the light in a real way, that will have some value that generative AI art doesn't. And I think also combining photography with AI, there's some really exciting opportunities there as well. So you're still using the skills of photography, but you're combining it with the new technology as well. So photography is not dead, that's the good news. And I think it's going to carry on for a long time. We're not going to see the end of photography. But I do really want to embrace this new technology and AI as well, because it's really exciting and it's really good fun as well. So that's about it for this video. If you've watched it this far, massive thanks for that, and thanks for just watching in general. If you found it useful in any way, or you've enjoyed it, then please just give me a thumbs up down below. And if you're new to the channel and you're not yet subscribed and you'd like to do so, you can just click down there on the big red button. That way you'll keep up to date with everything I'm doing each and every week. There's a new video usually every Sunday morning at 10 AM UK time, but next week I'm on holiday, so I might not have time to get one uploaded for that. But I hope you'll join me for the next one. And until then, thanks a lot everyone, and bye for now.